You're watching Wild About Arizona, the official podcast of the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Here's your host, Michael Coliani.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. So the Arizona Game and Fish Department is responsible for the conservation of more than 800 native species of wildlife throughout the state of Arizona. But if you live in the valley or another urban area, you might not get a chance to see too many of them up close. So that's where our wildlife viewing program steps in to provide those opportunities. And to learn a little bit more about that program and how you can view some of our state's wildlife, we are joined today by Jeff Meyers, our wildlife viewing program manager, and Cheyenne Towne, a wildlife viewing program coordinator. Thank you both for joining us today.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
So Jeff, Cheyenne, if you could, just tell us a little bit about yourself to kick us off and how you made your way to Game and Fish and your roles within the department.
You might have the better stories. Why don't you start?
Okay. So I basically grew up in the outdoors. I mean, most of our vacations were camping outside, fishing, hunting, all the things. So I've loved wildlife, loved outdoors. So I went to NAU and got my forestry degree with wildlife certificate. And I wanted to work for Game and Fish ever since I was like 10 years old. And I managed to land one of the summer internships with Game and Fish in 2015 as a sport fish intern. And I did that all throughout college, and then after that they kicked me out and they said, you got to find something else. I was like, okay. So I got 1 more year as an intern, and I did the boating education program, where you go out to different lakes, talk about boating education, you teach classes, paddle classes, all that kinds of stuff. So still sticking around water, and then they're like, all right, can't be an intern anymore. I was like, dang it. So I went and applied at the range, Ben Avery Shooting Range. And I worked at the Clay Target Center for a little while, and then the ultimate job opened up working with Jeff at the Wildlife Viewing Program as a coordinator. And so that's what I do now. I help coordinate events that we put on to go see different wildlife species around the state, and yeah, it's a good time.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's always awesome to hear so many folks at Game and Fish, like their passion for this type of work really started really early on in their lives, and they end up doing internship programs, which we have so many of, by the way, that really a lot of the times morph into folks working for us full time, right, Jeff?
Yeah. Oh, we see it all the time. And it's a really good way to get kind of started with the department as well. And I have a bit of a different story because I was a little older than Cheyenne when I started with the department. I was trained in wildlife. That's kind of my background is mammalogy and the study of mammals. And really it's mammalian paleontology. So when I applied for the job, I told them, don't think of me as a mammalian paleontologist. Think of me as a wildlife biologist with a deep sense of history. For whatever reason, it worked. But I, like Cheyenne, grew up in the outdoors, doing all kinds of outdoor stuff. And I'd gotten away from teaching. I'd gotten away from the sciences. And I was working in actually the medical industry at that time. And a job opened up at Game and Fish, and working with my predecessor in this program, Randy Babb, who's the best naturalist I know. And I didn't know him personally, but I knew of Randy and I knew his work. And I was like, I'm applying for that job. And I applied, and I was lucky enough to get it, and I worked as the coordinator for the program for about a year, and then Randy retired, and then I applied for and was lucky enough to get the program manager position. And it's just been, it's a great job because we get to do what we're really passionate about, which is educate people about wildlife, and even better, go out and look at wildlife as part of our job.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I have heard, not just you guys say it, but others around the department say that you two have some of the very best jobs at the department. So, yeah, kind of based on the smiles on your faces, I think that you guys would agree as well. And speaking of which, how did this program really get started? Because I understand, we haven't always had these opportunities for folks, but they've been around for a little while now.
That's true. So the program really started in 2006, and it started with one person who was a coordinator. His name was Joe, and he worked in the non-game branch over in the Wildlife Management Division, which is different than where we are now. And then in 2011, the formation of a branch that was the IEWR, Information Education Wildlife Recreation Branch. It's now the R3 branch. But at that time it formed, and Joe came over into this branch because it seemed a natural fit with the wildlife recreation aspect of the job. And then in 2014, they hired the first program manager, which was Randy Babb. And they hired Randy. And for the first time, that program was fully staffed with 2 full-time employees for the state doing this. And the real reason for this program is because we know through our own research that 52% of Arizonans enjoy viewing wildlife. They go out to view wildlife, and 29% take trips within the state to specifically for the purpose of viewing wildlife. So our job is really to engage a larger swath of the constituency and give them activities and experiential events that they're really interested in, and so they can support the department and at the same time learn how to ethically and safely view wildlife.
Absolutely. That's great. I consider myself one of those part of the 29% for sure who've made my way around the state for a bunch of different
Same.
reasons, whitewater draw, to see cranes, things like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of some of those wildlife opportunities, Cheyenne, why don't we start with you? What are some of your favorite ones that the department offers for folks around the state?
My favorite.
I know there's a lot of choices out there.
No. I keep looking at this picture and I can't not say that one. I mean, it's pretty spectacular. We go out on Canyon Lake super early in the morning in the middle of June just to make people miserable. No, I'm just kidding. It's hot, but we go really early, so it's not too bad. But we go out on the lake, beautiful lake here in Arizona, Canyon Lake is, and we go find sheep. And we view sheep from the pontoon boats. We talk about them, give backgrounds about them, natural history, all that kinds of stuff. And you get to see them up close, which is really nice for folks. And get to see the dynamics of the sheep, and we kind of interpret what's going on at that time as well. So that's probably one of my favorites. Although it's a really early morning, it's totally worth it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you don't get to get maybe this close, right?
Right,
And actually
right.
see, some of the detail we see here, but it's a pretty amazing experience to get to see them up close.
It is. And I would have to agree. It's one of my favorite events. I'm not a morning person by nature, but it is definitely my favorite event because we get to go out and be in this beautiful location and see these really majestic animals in their natural habitat and get to interpret that behavior like Cheyenne was talking about. And it really gives this intimate glimpse into their life, which we get to educate people about. In seeing that, which is really unique. It's a really unique opportunity. And it provides the chance for us to not only educate them about what they're seeing and about the sheep, but also how to do this themselves without us. They don't need us to be able to go view wildlife in the state. So one of our main goals at our events is to kind of educate people on how to do this on their own so that they can go out and enjoy the state's wildlife without guidance and do it safely. That's kind of the whole purpose. I also really like our bat netting events because it's really unique. It's the only place in the state that you can go and be part of and see bats up close and see them, from a foot away. We can't let people touch them, of course, but we can let them get really close and they educate people about bats. Bats have this really undeservedly bad reputation, and part of our job is to kind of dispel those myths and let them know how important that wildlife is.
That's right. The Dracula movie came out a long time ago.
A long
We don't
time.
need to connect those two things anymore.
That is correct.
Right? And that's a great opportunity for somebody who's maybe not a morning person, but maybe more of a night owl, right?
Right,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Or a
And
night bat, yeah.
Yeah.
multiple times we hear, skeptical about bats when I came here. My husband brought me, or my wife brought me, or my friend brought me, whatever. But by the end of the night, they're like, that was awesome. I am now a fan of bats. And I'm like, perfect, job done.
There's this one photo I used from bat netting, and Cheyenne already knows what I'm going to say because I always use this photo in all of our presentations. And it's a photo of I'm handling a bat and I'm sitting at this table that we process the bats and we just record data. And I'm holding the bat and there's this little boy, he's 10, 11 years old, across the table from me, maybe 12. And he's across the table from me and he is just jaw agape, just watching me hold this bat and seeing that bat up close. And you can tell he's having a great time and it's a really positive experience for him. So push comes to shove, this kid is going to have that really positive experience with bats and remember it for the rest of his life.
Right.
And when somebody says, oh, bats are gross or whatever in front of him, he's going to have the opportunity to say, no, they're actually really cool, and be the educator himself. And that's really an important aspect of what we do.
Yeah, when the passion begins young like that, you were literally seeing it right in front of your eyes. You can almost like see his future at Game and Fish, right? Just
You
coming
said
together.
it, the passion, and that's a passionate populace tends to be a proactive populace, and that's kind of one of our goals is to create that passion. You can't be passionate about something if you don't know anything about it. So we educate people, hopefully instilling some of that passion that we have for wildlife to them so they become advocates for wildlife conservation.
Well, this is kind of a perfect segue into my next question then for you guys is that, what is it really like to kind of be out there with the public, see those initial reactions from folks and really, see a lifelong passion developing for kids and then, for adults who might have never kind of been in that environment, maybe grew up in the city somewhere, and then they get to go out and see these things. What's that like?
It's definitely one of my favorite parts. I mean, the kids, obviously, every time you see them light up, it makes your day. But it's also the adults who you just see them travel back in time, back when they were 6 years old and they were playing in dirt and they were being outside all the time. They weren't worried about going to work and bills and all that stuff. And you just see their face light up again. And it's really exciting to get to see that happen. I think that's one of my favorite parts and the giggling and all the stuff on that.
It's so true. When you see that light bulb go on, when that person that you're engaging with realizes the value of that wildlife, that all wildlife has its own intrinsic value. And
Absolutely.
When they start to understand that and they see that wildlife has, they're not this faceless thing anymore, particularly bats, right? When they see bats, they only see them flitting around the sky at night. Now they get to see them up close. They get to see their faces. They get to see that different species have different personalities.
Oh, they're so cute. Like they didn't realize.
They had no idea. And when you see that light bulb go on, that's the real moment that really means a lot to me. And it obviously means a lot to our constituents as well, because about 35% of the people that attend our events come back to 3 or more events every single year because they have a really good time, including some of the people that come to our events, they've been to bat nettings 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times over the years. And they keep coming back because it's a really enjoyable event for them. And like we mentioned with bat netting, it's the only place that they can get to do that. So they really, really enjoy it. They really connect with wildlife, and that's what we're all about.
Sure. I think as someone, who's gone to some of these, been up close with some wildlife now, having worked here for a while, it's really no comparison to like watching something on National Geographic or something like that. To really be there in person and have that personal experience really makes a big difference, right?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
I'm sure, we've already talked about a couple of them, but you guys have been involved with tons of memorable experiences for some of those folks. Could you just give me one story each that really sticks out in your mind of wow, that really made a big difference on that person?
So a big difference on us or people there?
The people there, or maybe even yourself that you just will never forget.
After you said that, the one thing I could think of is whitewater draw.
Yeah.
Doing Sandhill Crane tours down at whitewater draw. It's 6:40 in the morning, super cold out, the moon's still slightly up, the sky's like kind of purple, and all of a sudden 20,000 cranes take off overhead of you, and you're just watching them create their V's, making all the loud noises, and you take a look at the people around you, your constituents that are there, and they're just oh my goodness, just completely in awe. And that's probably one of my favorite ones. It's gorgeous.
Just seeing people so immersed in the moment, live in the moment, right?
Totally.
I would agree that event, Whitewater Draw, going to Whitewater Draw, which, as you know, is one of the commission-owned properties, in the winter when there are 25,000 cranes on the draw, in my opinion, is the most spectacular and consistently reliable wildlife viewing event in the entire state of Arizona. We have a tremendous number and diversity of opportunities. But for me, and so Cheyenne told a story about the constituents, I'll say one of my personal stories that really meant a lot to me, and was I was doing a bird survey. This is before I worked at Game and Fish, and I was doing a bird survey for Audubon down at Robbins Butte, another commission-owned property. And I was up on the butte, about 150 feet or so up from the surrounding terrain, and it was a sunset bird survey and a bird count. And Swainson's hawks, which are these really kind of spectacular hawks, migrate long distances, and they migrate in groups, which is unusual for predatory birds like this. And they flew by, there was 22 of them, and they flew by at eye level about 25 feet away from us. So the point where you put your glasses up to your face, your binoculars, you couldn't even fit the whole bird in the field of view of the binoculars. It would be the head and the shoulders and the wings. And they flew by completely silently, 22 of them going from east towards the setting sun. And they just turned and looked at us like, what are you guys doing up here? And that was such a magical moment to me. I've been to Africa wildlife viewing. I've been in Asia wildlife viewing. It was one of the best wildlife viewing experiences I've ever had because it was such a close, intimate experience, an encounter with an animal that you just don't get to see that close that frequently.
Right. We're so lucky to live in Arizona, such a diverse state.
It really is.
Not only the wildlife here, but the landscapes. And so you don't have to go to Africa. You don't have to go to Asia to see something super special like that.
Agreed.
Which is so cool. I've realized being here, I've only been here since February, right? But I've already seen all the different diverse opportunities that you guys give for folks to go out and try. And I've seen some of them kind of combine activities, kayaking and birding, things like that. So what's it like giving a chance for folks to kind of broaden their horizons, get out, maybe find a new hobby, something like that, find a new passion?
Well, that's one of the reasons we love doing that. First of all, it gives us an opportunity to collaborate with other work units here, like the boating team, right? And Cheyenne has the background, which she was talking about before, with being an intern for the boating education group of people. And it's a little silly because you're on a kayak, trying to hold binoculars to your face while you're viewing birds, but it's fun, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's unique, and it allows us to get back into all the little kind of nooks and crannies at Watson Lake, which is where we do that particular event. First of all, it's a beautiful area in Prescott, but it really gives an opportunity to get back there where you wouldn't be able to see all those birds from the shore. And it really sparks that level of interest for some people. Some people are there because they like kayaking. Some people are there because they love birding. And combining the two, I think, puts it together for people. They're like, oh, wait a second, I can combine all these kind of hobbies, put them together. And it's one of our events. It sells out very quickly. And people really enjoy themselves on the event. They really give us a lot of positive feedback after that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to watch Cheyenne taking a bunch of people out on Watson Lake, you can view that on our YouTube page. And I just love seeing the passion in your face when you're out there with folks.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I love it. And every time we leave that event, they're immediately like, oh, I got to go get a kayak, or I got to go get binoculars every time. So I love that.
Right, yeah, it kind of opens people up to these new experiences, new hobbies, and I think sometimes I certainly have felt this way before, where you kind of get set in your ways. I like this, I'm not really into that. Oh, something new, I don't know, I'm skeptical about it. But once you get out there on that boat or on that kayak, right, and you're out and you get to see these birds up close, it really changes your perspective on things, right?
It does.
Couldn't agree more.
Tell us a little bit about, we're kind of moving into the winter season for you guys. I know a lot of our opportunities are in the summer, but what are some wildlife opportunities that are coming up over the next few months and into the new year?
So our main season for wildlife viewing events usually is from the beginning of May through the end of September. That's when we do our bat netting. That's when we do our bighorn sheep viewing. Over the next few months, the majority of our events are educational, wildlife lectures. We do them virtually and in person. The virtual ones are great because people can tune in from the comfort of their own home. After dinner, they can tune in and learn about wildlife, and again, kind of trying to spark that passion through people. We usually do...
Or they can get a recording.
Or if they sign up, they can get the recording and watch it whenever they want to watch it, because we record all of our presentations that we do virtually. And we usually do those 1 or 2 a month. We usually do about 1 a month internally, what we call our in-house virtual lectures that we do directly here at Game and Fish. And then we do them with our partners like Southwest Wildlife Conservation Center, Desert Botanical Gardens, Boyce Thompson Arboretum, and we do lectures with them also virtually, and those you would have to sign up on their website as opposed to our website. But we also have a diverse array of topics that we discuss. Most of these lectures are given kind of at a Bio 101 college level, so they're in depth. They're not over anyone's head by any means, but they're in depth. We cover a little bit of the natural history and then kind of a global picture and narrow that down, usually about a individual group of critters or multiple group of critters that kind of naturally go together. And we have 40 or so topics that we cover. And we're adding to that all the time. And then going into the spring, is when we have a bunch of other events that start to come in. The bat nettings begin in May, the bighorn sheep the last 2 weeks of June.
Sure.
we load our events onto the registration website, usually the end of February, the beginning of March. And I would fully encourage people to sign up for a Wild Plus Life newsletter from Arizona Game and Fish, because we promote our events through there. They learn about them, and as soon as they see those events, I would strongly recommend signing up if you're interested, because they do fill very quickly. We have limited space and a limited amount of people working in this program. So we fill up very quickly for those events. So I think it's a good chance for people to kind of wet their whistle with wildlife viewing and learning about wildlife viewing by attending some of the virtual talks or the in-person talks, to kind of spark more interest in our native wildlife, and then join us on a in-person event to really have that experience.
Cheyenne, do you think you could just tell us a little bit about what you tell people, and if somebody asks you out at the grocery store, how can I get signed up for one of these events? What do you tell them? I basically just tell them to go to azgfd.gov/wildlife viewing, and that'll take them right to our page. And there's going to be, if you scroll down just a little bit next to a bat picture, I believe it is, it's going to say register for an event. Click on that link, and it'll take you right to all the different events you're going to see on there. Right there. And folks, I have it bookmarked, so you can come back to it in the early stages of the year and see what's on there. And like you guys said, these things fill up really quickly. So it's definitely, if you have an interest in a particular wildlife viewing opportunity, you should try and nail that down as quickly as possible, right? Yeah, 100%.
For sure. And we do have a wait list on the event. So if they do sell out, you can put your name on the wait list. And then the way that works is, if somebody does drop out of an event, which happens all the time for whatever reason, that the first person that put their name on the wait list gets contacted. They have 24 hours to register, and then if they don't register within those 24 hours, it goes to the second person, third person, and so on. So there are ways to be engaged, and we also fully encourage people to reach out to us directly.
Fantastic. Okay, before we wrap up here, I've decided I'm going to kind of make this the final question for everybody.
Sure.
What's your favorite animal that you guys go out and get to enjoy and tell people about? Pretty tough. I'll give you mine. So far, I've been involved in a lot of different bear research and gone to some conferences that involve black bear research and things like that. So that's kind of really piqued my interest so far. But
I'm assuming you're going to say a wildcat.
I'm a carnivore guy by training and experience. I've been studying mammalian carnivores for 26 years now. So I would have to, but we don't have any events focused on it because it's so unreliable.
And they're elusive. Oh, yeah.
Right. Very elusive
Can't
animals.
just set that up. Yeah. That's what places like Arizona are for, right? Yeah.
Exactly. But we do get an opportunity in some of our viewing events to see things like bobcats, and I just love bobcats. But as far as our formal events, I would have to say bat netting, because bats are really unique critters, and they really have a lot of, they're small little animals, but they have a lot of personality. And, there's a reason we call them sky puppies.
He has a really good impression of a pallid bat. I won't make you do it on camera.
Thank you.
Although it would be great to just have that in my coffers whenever I need to pull it
Some
out.
of them are really, the whole time you're holding them, they want to eat your face. And other ones just kind of look at you like, dude, what are you doing?
California leaf nose is my favorite bat, because they just look at you. You're holding them, they're just like, but why? Why am I here right now?
Right. Why am I not back up in the sky right now?
Exactly.
Adorable. My favorite, there's too many. I mean, all the birding events are so fun. I guess it'll be a birding type one.
Sure.
All of our waterfowl are really fun to teach about. I created a Waterfowl of Arizona presentation a couple years ago.
It's one of our best.
Yeah. And so probably just going out on any of those kind of events and talking about any of those guys would probably be my favorite.
Particularly on kayak, it is kind of fun.
It is really fun.
Yeah, that seems great, and I think that's not that many people realize. At least I didn't when I moved to Arizona, that we have such a diverse population of birds in particular, and it's just incredible. So
it's one of the best places in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something to do during this winter time, is them migrating through and whatnot. Some here are stopover sites. Sometimes they stay here for the winter. This is the great time to go out. If you got any kind of binocular, $10 binocular, whatever, go out to your nearest park and see what you see, and I recommend it.
All right, you can just walk out your front door and you never know what wildlife you're going to see,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a place to start. Start in your own backyard.
Yep.
Sure. Thank you both so much for joining us, Jeff, Cheyenne. We're looking forward to seeing you out there educating folks, all right?
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Visit us online at www.azgfd.gov.